The tragic lifestyle of Zak Bagans, now at 48 years old. The legend of Zak Bagans begins with a chill, not the kind that slides down your spine when a door creaks at midnight, but the kind that lingers long after the lights come on. To millions, he is the fearless host of ghost adventures, the man who yells into empty hallways and provokes whatever lingers beyond the grave. He built a multi-million-dollar empire on fear and fascination, turning a childhood obsession with the supernatural into one of the most successful paranormal franchises in history. Yet behind the booming voice and night vision cameras is a story far darker than anything he has filmed. At 49, Zak Bagans isn't merely the hunter of spirits. He is a man slowly becoming the very thing he pursued. Long before television fame, there was just a boy in Las Vegas, drawn to shadows his classmates never noticed. While friends planned sports careers or dreamed of music stardom, Zak spent his nights reading ghost stories, devouring horror films, and sneaking into abandoned buildings with a restless curiosity. Fear was never something to run from. It was a fuel. It offered a strange comfort to a child who often felt out of place. Loneliness sharpened his fascination until the supernatural wasn't entertainment but escape, a world where he could matter and where the rules of ordinary life no longer applied. By his teens, this obsession defined him. He didn't want to hear about ghosts. He wanted to see them, touch them, prove them. Each eerie expedition hinted at a deeper hunger, control. When the rest of the world felt chaotic, he could command a darkened hallway, shout into the void, demand a response from something invisible. What began as curiosity hardened into a calling. He wasn't simply a thrill seeker. He was shaping a destiny, one haunted house at a time. The early 2000s gave him the chance to prove it. With friends Aaron Goodwin and Nick Groff, Zak set out to film an independent documentary, Ghost Adventures. No network backing, no corporate safety net, just cameras, locked doors, and reckless bravery. They explored condemned hospitals and forgotten prisons, daring the dead to make themselves known. Their documentary, raw and chaotic, pulsed with adrenaline. When it aired, it captured more than ratings. It captured imaginations. The Travel Channel quickly came calling, and a legend was born. Almost overnight, Zak Bagans transformed from an obscure thrill chaser into the loud, confrontational face of modern ghost hunting. Ghost Adventures wasn't polite investigation. It was combat. Zak yelled at unseen entities, provoked spirits others would whisper to, and treated each location like a battleground. Viewers were enthralled. Here was someone who didn't just believe, he challenged the supernatural to show itself. The formula worked, but it also forged a cage. Fans wanted the fearless Zak every week, a man immune to fear, impervious to doubt. With every season, the pressure deepened. He had to be bigger, bolder, louder. He had to charge into darkness with cameras rolling and never flinch. The line between Zak the performer and Zak the person blurred until even he struggled to tell them apart. Friends noticed the transformation. The shy, curious boy was gone, replaced by a man who had to be a myth. Fame demanded it. And once the audience believes you are unbreakable, admitting vulnerability feels like betrayal. Success multiplied. Specials, books, documentaries, each feeding the growing empire. Yet Zak's most ambitious creation was still to come: the Haunted Museum in Las Vegas. Opened in 2017, it became both his crown jewel and his deepest gamble. Inside, rooms overflow with cursed artifacts, the infamous Dybbuk box, personal effects of serial killers, furniture from scenes of tragedy. Visitors walk among items whispered to carry death itself. For fans, it's the ultimate thrill. For Zak, it became something stranger, a home. He didn't merely display these objects, he lived with them. Employees reported an atmosphere heavy and unsettling. Guests fainted, cried, or claimed invisible hands brushed their skin. Zak himself admitted that some pieces made him physically ill, describing blurred vision, stabbing headaches, and nights of oppressive dread. Skeptics dismiss such tales, but even they concede that constant immersion in violent history and negative energy can weigh on the mind. Day after day, year after year, Zak stayed surrounded by it. The museum was profitable, yes. Ghost Adventures remained a ratings powerhouse, but the personal cost surfaced in whispers: chronic pain, worsening vision, and a reclusive streak that deepened as the years passed. He rarely appeared at Hollywood events, rarely pursued friendships outside the paranormal world. Those who worked closest with him described an intensity that bordered on obsession. Control was paramount. Former co-host Nick Groff's exit fueled rumors of behind-the-scenes clashes, and colleagues spoke carefully when asked about the man behind the camera. Outside the bright lights and ghostly theatrics, Zak's life grew quieter and more isolated. He never married, never settled into a family life, and kept relationships shrouded in mystery. Fans speculated endlessly, but real answers never came. The character he had created, the defiant ghost hunter, left little room for ordinary intimacy. Even when the cameras stopped, Zak remained the persona, because stepping out of it might unravel the empire he'd built. And so the tragedy began to reveal itself. The museum, meant to celebrate a career, became a metaphor for his existence, a grand yet suffocating mausoleum filled with death. Every hallway lined with artifacts of suffering, every room echoing with stories of despair. Visitors could leave after an hour. Zak stayed. Step inside the haunted museum after closing hours, and you'll understand the quiet burden Zak Bagans carries. The lights dim, the tourists are gone, and the artifacts remain, each one steeped in tragedy. Chairs from hospitals where patients died in agony, dolls said to whisper in the dark, the infamous Dybbuk box whose legend inspired Hollywood films. For visitors, these objects are a quick thrill. For Zak, they are daily companions. He has admitted that some items make him physically ill, triggering blurred vision and overwhelming dread. Even skeptics concede that spending years surrounded by symbols of violence and death would weigh heavily on anyone's mind. For Zak, it has become his permanent reality. While fans leave the museum after an hour, he stays. This constant exposure to stories of murder, curses, and despair has a psychological cost. Psychologists warn that endless focus on trauma and negativity can erode a person's spirit. Zak has volunteered for that experiment, living among objects that many believe carry dark energy. Whether one believes in ghosts or not, the impact of such an environment is undeniable. As the museum drew international attention, whispers about Zak's health grew louder. He began speaking of chronic pain, worsening back problems, and vision issues. Sometimes he suggested the artifacts were to blame, whether the cause is supernatural or simply stress. The truth is clear. Decades of chasing adrenaline and inhabiting haunted spaces have left visible marks. Fans who have followed him since the early seasons of Ghost Adventures note the difference. The once restless energy has slowed. His commanding voice sometimes sounds strained. Public appearances outside the paranormal world are rare, limited mainly to show promotions or museum events. Unlike many celebrities who diversify into lighter ventures or retreat into family life, Zak remains tethered to the dark. And that tether seems to grow heavier each year. Insiders describe him as increasingly private, even reclusive. The man who once stormed into abandoned prisons with fearless bravado now moves with a guarded caution. It is as if decades of staring into darkness have left a shadow on him that no spotlight can erase. Personal relationships reflect that same isolation. Zak has never married. Long-term partnerships are almost absent from his story, surfacing only as rumors quickly fading without confirmation. For a man whose face is known worldwide, his off-screen life is startlingly blank. Some fans see the mystery as part of his allure. Others sense loneliness behind the curtain. Close colleagues have come and gone, some departing abruptly. Each exit fuels speculation that Zak's need for control, combined with his intense lifestyle, makes lasting bonds difficult. Nick Groff's departure from Ghost Adventures remains one of the most discussed rifts. Was it creative differences? Power struggles? Friends hint at clashes and the strain of working in a high-stress environment where Zak demanded perfection. The same traits that built his empire, meticulous planning, relentless standards, may have also built walls between himself and those around him. Controversy has followed his work as well. Critics accuse him of sensationalizing real tragedies, turning haunted objects tied to violent crimes into tourist attractions. They question whether displaying the belongings of murderers or victims for entertainment crosses a moral line. Zak has defended his choices, saying the museum preserves history and offers visitors a tangible connection to the past. Yet the criticism lingers, another weight added to the shoulders of a man already burdened by shadows. And there is the question of belief. Even those who doubt the supernatural admit that living daily among cursed legends can create its own reality. If you spend enough time with darkness, it seeps in, whether or not the spirits are real. Friends quietly wonder how much of Zak's life is performance and how much is a slow transformation. Has he become what he once only hunted? A figure existing between the living and the dead? What is undeniable is his growing solitude. While other television personalities age into family roles or find peace away from the camera, Zak seems unable to leave the haunted identity behind. He doesn't appear at Hollywood parties. He rarely speaks about anything outside the paranormal. His life is a closed loop of filming, collecting artifacts, and maintaining the museum. The very success that made him famous has sealed him inside the world he created. The Haunted Museum embodies that paradox. It is his greatest achievement and his deepest prison. Every object symbolizes a tragedy. Every corridor is lined with the energy of suffering. Visitors sense it for an hour. Zak endures it every day. Even if the curses are nothing more than stories, the psychological effect is inescapable. He profits from fear, yet he lives in constant proximity to it, breathing it in like stale air. At 49, Zak Bagans is no longer the young investigator charging headfirst into darkness. He is a man carrying decades of heavy experiences, his body aching, his vision dimming, his social circle shrinking. The fearless persona remains on camera, but away from the lens he moves through a world that feels smaller, quieter, and more haunted than ever. The hunter of spirits has become something else entirely, a figure defined by isolation, tethered to objects of death, his life increasingly resembling the very legends he chases. By the time most television stars approach 50, they've found a way to separate career from identity. They build families, pursue new hobbies, and let the spotlight fade. Zak Bagans has done the opposite. The deeper his fame grew, the more tightly he clung to the haunted image that first made him famous. His museum is not just a business. It is his refuge and his cage, a monument to everything he believes he has proven about the paranormal, and to everything he has sacrificed. Those who know him privately describe a man who lives almost entirely within the world he created. His Las Vegas home contains artifacts from investigations, objects rumored to carry the very energies that unsettle his guests. Even his personal spaces mirror the museum's atmosphere: dim lighting, carefully curated displays, and a silence that feels heavy. He does not own the kind of loud luxury associated with other reality TV success stories. No sports cars lined up in a driveway, no weekend escapes to tropical islands. His wealth exists, but it is tied to darkness, to relics of tragedy, and to the ongoing upkeep of his haunted empire. Zak's refusal to step away has created a paradox. He has achieved everything he once dreamed: international fame, financial security, and influence in a field many dismissed as entertainment, but at the cost of ordinary human connections. Close friendships fade, colleagues depart, and the possibility of marriage or children seems to drift further out of reach. Those who once worked beside him speak of a man who guards his privacy fiercely, who values control over companionship. Trust, for Zak, is rare and fragile. Even casual observers notice the transformation. Early seasons of Ghost Adventures carried a rebellious energy, almost a sense of play in the way Zak taunted spirits and shouted into the dark. Today, his on-screen presence feels heavier, his voice slower, his posture more deliberate. What once looked like adrenaline now resembles burden. Fans who have followed him for nearly 2 decades sometimes wonder aloud if the work has finally consumed him. Critics have long debated whether the supernatural is real, but they agree on one thing: a life built entirely around death and fear changes a person. Constant exposure to human suffering, whether you believe in ghosts or not, can weigh on the psyche. Psychologists call it vicarious trauma, the cumulative effect of bearing witness to grief and violence. Zak has chosen that exposure willingly for most of his adult life. His haunted museum, with its cursed dolls, execution chairs, and infamous Dybbuk box, is the most visible symbol of this choice. Visitors come for a thrill and leave with stories. Zak remains, day after day, surrounded by reminders of murder, disaster, and despair. He has spoken about physical symptoms: blinding headaches, blurred vision, sudden waves of dread after handling certain artifacts. Whether these are medical issues or something unexplainable hardly matters. The effect is real, and it shows. In rare interviews, Zak hints at the toll without fully acknowledging it. He speaks of feeling drained, of nights when sleep is impossible after long investigations, of a constant sense that something unseen lingers nearby. He never calls it possession or haunting, but the implication is clear. Decades of inviting darkness have left their mark. The irony is sharp. Zak Bagans set out to prove that ghosts exist, to show the world that the afterlife leaves traces among the living. In doing so, he has slowly taken on the very qualities he once pursued. He moves through life like an apparition, public yet untouchable, famous yet solitary, surrounded by people yet fundamentally alone. Supporters still line up outside the museum, eager for a glimpse of the fearless ghost hunter. To them, he remains a legend, the man who dared to confront the unknown and built a multi-million-dollar empire on sheer conviction. But those who look closer see a different story. A man defined not by victories over fear, but by a long surrender to it. This is the tragedy of Zak Bagans. The persona that brought him fame now keeps him captive. The empire he built out of curiosity and courage has become a labyrinth of haunted rooms, each echoing with the cost of his obsession. Friends have moved on. His body bears the weight of years spent chasing adrenaline. and his private life is a quiet expanse of unanswered questions. Yet, in that darkness lies the very essence of his legacy. Zak Bagans will be remembered not only as a pioneer of modern paranormal television, but as the man who proved that confronting fear can blur the line between hunter and hunted. He has become both the storyteller and the story, the investigator and the evidence. At 49, the fearless ghost hunter is no longer simply chasing shadows. He is living among them. The empire endures, the museum doors remain open, and the cameras still capture his confrontations with the unknown. But behind the bravado stands a man who has given everything, health, relationships, peace of mind, to the world he chose. Zak Bagans dreamed of proving that spirits walk among us. The cruel twist is that he has become one of them, a living ghost in a world of his own making, forever tethered to the darkness that first called his name.